to handle that on her behalf for the Bobulomo. Once she is 18 and consenting, another rite will be performed for her, which makes her a complete wife. Some of you still ask, why her? Well, chieftaincy is not just chosen randomly. The gods choose, and here are certain families considered as royals. She happens to be the chosen one and has been performing her queenly duties since age 7. The rites had to be performed so she can be able to perform certain rites. Let's call it an upgrade of her duties. She will go to school and graduate. Her role as the head of all the queen mothers and fetish priestesses of the Gadangbe land requires her to attain the highest form of education to be able to lead and bring progress to her people and Gadangbe as a whole. So please, rest assured that she is still a virgin. She's not living with the Wulomo, but it is the duty of the Wulomo to ensure that she is well taken care of, and also every dream of hers is provided for to attain the best in life. And please, the Ochame's words does not depict what will happen. It was just unfortunate the video was cut at the point when she emphasized that all she said is just educating us about marriage, but there will be no intercourse between them. We know how mischievous humans can be. Thank you. This is on Facebook, Bartholomew Boy. And it is this that I saw that triggered my thoughts, because I was busy doing a lot of things.
Right.
And this caught my attention. So I said, what's going on? And then I started digging and doing my research and all of that, and boom, it just hit me like that.
Johnny, a lot of people are calling on me to ask you for full details. I have a friend who says, I know Johnny goes deep into the matter and we want a lot more clarity. So this morning you have some job to do, and as we bring all the voices together, we'll hopefully be able to make some sense of what has been going on, because as we said this morning, in the absence of information, others fill the gaps. And
it's a basic PR
I was quite intrigued that this morning on Community Voices, some of what I'd seen on the socials were being echoed about this not being a new thing, that there may be other young girls also involved.
The truth of the matter is that this goes, so as I stated earlier, there are what we call in Akan Nkonya Yere, right?
Okay. Like stool wife,
yes.
Nkonya Yere.
Yes.
Right.
Nkonya Yere. It's not a new concept.
Okay.
In Ghana.
I see.
So as we will go into constitutional issues, I'm not a lawyer though, but I think that we can fairly understand what the constitution is. If at any point we are we are in a fix, we'll call one of our lawyer friends to explain to us. But the concept of Nkonya Yere is not new at all.
Right.
And chiefs have the option to either accept the Nkonya Yere or send you to live with them.
Right.
Right. And then they actually marry them as part of their wives, or they can decide to recognize them as their wife, keep them at a distance, and still run their private. You know, there are chiefs like that who say, I want to stay with my wife.
Okay.
But, you know, culturally, this is my stool wife. So they have no sexual relations. They're just, you know.
It doesn't feel a ceremonious capacity.
Symbolic. It's just symbolic.
Right.
You know, a symbolic role.
Sure.
That's one. And then there are those who also say that, look, Nkonya, I like, come.
I'll stay with you.
Yes, I'll stay with you. We'll give birth. So you have those two options.
Right.
It's akin to having somebody who dies intestate, right? And then the person has a wife and also has a junior brother or a little brother, right? And that little brother is giving the option, or senior brother, whichever it is giving the option of saying that, oh, this is your brother's wife. We are giving him and the children to you to take care of them. Some say, oh, I like, come and live with me.
Okay.
They will have other children. That was what Nia J. Crew was explaining. Doku and Dokuyo and all those terminologies that he had explained to us. And Jane, you find Nia J clue for us so we can get some clarity. Now, there are those who also say, oh, okay, I accept it. She is now my wife. But then that is all it is. She's not going to live in my house with me, or even if I have a house, she's going to have an independence. She can choose another husband. But traditionally, I am the husband. You have that option.
Okay.
Pretty much the same way somebody dies and say, oh, you are their father. And then they take over.
Okay.
So culturally and traditionally, we don't want to have a space where there's a lacuna sort of, and people are losing their that family bond, because there has to be a father, there has to be a mother, there has to be an uncle, there has to be a grandpa,
That's
a
right.
child, and then, the usual African setting. But in this particular case, there is also the conversation about what does the Children's Act say? And we'll get into the detail. The Children's Act is specific on what the rights of the child should be and what it should not be. The Constitution is also specific on the place of customary law. And then the Constitution is also superior to any of these other laws which we have mentioned, right? So now, when people come into the conversation, start explaining that, oh, it's tradition, it's culture, you get a bit confused and worried.
That's right.
Now, what does a Wolomo do? I want to get into that so people don't confuse the issues. And while I'm at that, please look for the what do you call it? The Constitution, the Article 11.
Sure.
Right, so we can get into it, and then we'll get into all of those conversations here on Sunrise on 3FM 92.7.
3FM Sunrise.
So there are various, leadership roles within the state and the Ga administration, okay? There's Manche, who is the king or the chief. There's Mankralo, who takes care of the lands and the boundaries of the land. In some cases, they also install chiefs and all of that. There's Asafuache, who is the warrior king, right? Then there's the Wuleache, who is the chief fisherman. There's a Blesho Che. There's the Ngungu Chalo Che. That's the Gongon Bita. There's the Flanga Che, the flag bearer. There's so many of them. Jassy. Now, in the past, Wulome are supposed to be the priests, right? The high priest or the chief priest of the state. So Wulome would traditionally wear white. Wulome would traditionally be pure. And we were told that Wulome fast and pray, and Wulome observe a lot of piety. They are very pious and all of that. So a Wulomo is literally higher than a king or a chief. You understand?
Okay.
In the scheme of things, the Gbabu Wulomo is supposed to be the overall boss of the Ga state. That is why they call him Shiche.
Shiche.
Yes, she is ground, like landlord. Okay, he's called Shiche. That's landlord. So he's supposed to be the all in all, the overall boss. So what he does as Gbabu Wulomo, and that's why all of this conversation has come up, because he's supposed to maintain a certain level of weight that is non-negotiable. So when you find some blemish in this public ridicule and this public concern and this misjudgment and all of these things, you become worried because this is supposed to be higher than the Gamanche. Okay? And this is supposed to be the main man, the all in all. So when he has a problem, it means that the entire state will be looked at in a certain way. That is also another leg of the conversation that we must look at. But you know what, guys? Let's take a quick break. When we return from this break, Helen is cooking something for you. We'll get into it. We'll get into it.
Craving a juicy bite? Explore Burger King's exclusive deals on Glovo. Enjoy discounts of up to 50% on flame-grilled burgers and mouth-watering sides from Burger King. You also get to enjoy free delivery on your order if you are a first-time customer. Download the Glovo app now to indulge in Burger King's savory delights at unbeatable prices. It's fast, it's convenient, and it's a feast fit for royalty. Don't wait. Treat yourself to Burger King today. Burger King on Glovo. Order now, and we'll deliver your burger bliss straight to your doorstep in a flash.
3FM Sunrise.
Number one everywhere you go. Pico. For the friends and the family. Pico. Big refreshing moment. Pico. For the kids and the adults. Pico. Boys and girls with a drink. Pico. Everywhere the party day. Pico. We go mash up the place with the Pico. The greatest in every battle. Pico. Pico. Big refreshing moments.
Beagle drink. Big refreshing moment. Another quality product from Trillium Industries. This advert is FDA approved.
Freezer, ya diaba. Adama for diaba. Eye freezer. Adama. Akwafo semenhia. Adama. Metimoso ma sorry. Kane no obobo mu ase a. Adwo frefre no bia mienu miensa na se nan. Atele wotimi di akwase. Adama for adwena kwafo ho ahu se. Ya duro ba kope ebe shifu ye bia. High technology. Akofa freezer ba. Wenku a. Eno anto benya 15 latest. No afia what ya no afia gum. O de basia fu ye bia no basia bio. Ekoti se obeti mo no. Na mu ye sure se o mention tasie. Na mu ase na afọ na anu a freezer. O mpa we na apade. Freezer.
Basia ebe so do so ama. Amoni age.
Omuti na me wasika. Omuti na me. Me di me nyina duru bia so me do mbu. Adama, without Adama no kuya. Adama, you can't resist.
Ubenya Adama West Africa for edwe bi we baby biara ye ton kra ye ho edwu. Afi kayo na kenkan enchoya ewo edre ho.
3FM Sunrise.
For me,
Welcome back to Sunrise here on 3FM 92.7, and we get straight into the constitutional issues. Helen, there's Article 11 of the 1992 Constitution.
That's
what does
right.
it say?
All right. The laws of Ghana, Article 11 of our Constitution says, 1. The laws of Ghana shall comprise A, the Constitution, B, enactments made by or under the authority of the Parliament established by this Constitution, C, any orders, rules, and regulations made by any person or authority under a power conferred by this Constitution, D, the existing law, and E, the common law.
So it means, number one, if I get the sense right, that customary law is also recognized by our laws. But you see, this is the hierarchy of laws. 1, the Constitution. So any other law that is promulgated should not be in contravention of the Constitution. Number 2, enactment made by or under the authority of Parliament or established by the Constitution. The Child Rights, the Child Rights Act or Children's Act, right, will fall into this category.
That's right.
And then there are any orders, rules, and regulations made by any person on authority under a power conferred by this Constitution. Again, you can put that one there. You can look at court, you can look at straj, you can look at, all those things. Then the existing law, right? And then the common law. So you can go talk about Norman Conquest 1066 BC, all those ones. Then you can let the common law of Ghana shall comprise the rules of law generally known as the common law, the rules generally known as the doctrines of equity, and the rules of customary law, including those determined by the Superior Court of Judicature. For the purpose of this article, customary law means the rules of law which by custom are applicable to particular communities in Ghana. Right? And then the existing law. So customary law is recognized. But then the challenge is, and I made this point earlier, has it been codified? The customary law in Ghana, the customary law in Takrady, the customary law in Ofinso, the customary law in Tolong, has it been codified? Or is everybody doing what they like? That's the first point.
Right.
The second point is that how does that sink into the dictate of the 1992 Constitution? Does it contravene it? That's why I mentioned earlier that some people hold clitoridectomy, right, as a culture and a tradition where they cut the clitoris of young girls, right, and
That's
offer
right.
them to a priest or whatever, a whole thing which has been now outlawed. But some people hitherto believed in that clitoridectomy. Does it sit with the 1992 Constitution? Where does it sit?
Right.
So if that, for example, you believe that each time I come into the studio as part of my culture and tradition, I slap you. How does that sit into the 1992 Constitution in respect of your rights?
Correct.
And the privileges that you have granted under the Constitution? So if we codify it and we situate it properly, then we will be fine.
But Johnny, please, when you say codify, is that sort of giving it, do you mean to give it legitimacy by way of it being put in one place?
Yes,
or?
so we must all understand, okay, so when we say libation, this is what it means.
Sure.
When we say, you have to properly codify it.
Okay.
Once you codify it, then people get a better understanding of it. There's no ambiguity about it.
There's a reference point you look at.
You can look at. There's no ambiguity about it. This morning, for example, I spoke about kusum. And
That's
I mentioned that when people say kusum, and some people don't even understand it because they have heard somebody saying it. But it's 2 syllables put together. Ku and su. Right? So this is a group. And these are the things that identify the group. So let's say a church organization, Anglican Young People's Association. You have a logo, you have a motto, you have a slogan, you have your colors. The colors have color schemes, you have your leadership structure, you have your hierarchy. So this is the ku.
Yeah.
And ku omusu eni. So when you see them doing their things, you know that, as for this one, they are Gans. As for this one, they are Ashantis.
Right.
As for this one, they are Evers. As for this one, they are Nzimas. So it's Ku and Su put together as Kusum. And that's why I believe that we have gotten to the point where some of these things have to be demystified. It has to be explained. The veil has to be taken off it. So people get a better understanding of it so that when things are going wrong, they can actually see it, identify it, and say that this doesn't represent us.
Correct.
Because Kusum is supposed to identify a group of people and what they stand for. You get the point?
I do.
So if the Ku, for example, here at Media General, we have a mission and vision. We have a way we do our events. We have a way we do our branding. We have a way we do our promotion. We have a way we treat our customers. You have a way we do this and do that and do that. That is what sets us apart from other media houses, even though we are all media houses.
Right.
So if you go to a Media General event and you don't see A, B, C, and D, then you know that Ekoi and Musunye, there's something that's wrong. And that's why when you are first employed, you are giving an orientation.
Correct.
To let you understand the vision, the mission, the direction of the business, where we came from, where we are, and whither we go with. You get the point?
Absolutely.
A lot of people are happy to say, oh, kusu, and that's it. Because they have heard it. Or as the accounts will say, how do you people say it, Kaya? They say, amanye ni amamre. Finish. But if you ask them to explain what is the amanye, what is the amamre, it becomes a problem.
That's right.
Let's engage Nia Jeklu. He's a historian and a broadcaster as well. Ni Ojeko. Mimba Manye. Great. And also joining us on Zoom is Bright Apia. He is the Executive Director or the Chief Laborer at Child Rights International. Bright, good morning. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, good morning, Johnny.
Great. Good to hear from you, Bright. And we'll begin this conversation. Nia Jeklu, I'll start this conversation with you. I've been trying to explain Kusum. Maybe you can tell me if I was right or wrong. Was I right? Hello, Ni. I can't hear you. Ni, you have to position yourself well so that we can hear you.
Okay.
Ni will have to. Ni, let's call you back. Your line is not clean. Great. Bright, that brings me to you. The Constitution of the Republic of Ghana is clear. The Child Act is clear on what should be done and what should not be done in the favor of children. You have seen what happened over the weekend and the explanations that are being given and put to it. How does that sound to you?
Well, Johnny, this particular case presented a lot of issues to me. First, has to do with the inconsistency in terms of even the concept of the cultural practices that the rites that they performed, because we were getting different narrative about that. So it stands to also reason, just as you've mentioned, that cultural right must also be clear and must have a direction as to what you need to do. And if it is possible, it must be codified. And once it is codified, then we can measure its response and its object to the provisions of the Constitution, and then say that it is a positive culture that will promote the welfare of children, or it is a culture that the state can also easily identify the negatives and then deal with it, or draw the attention of traditional areas to it, right. That in respect to this particular provision or the culture that you want to do, be mindful that there are laws that protect a group of people, for that matter. If the performance of the right concerns them, then these are the ABCD protocols that you have to go through to be able to perform that. Again, is also for me raise the issue about how tradition itself respond to the welfare of children. You know, and for me, if we can just do anything with children anyhow, then we also begin to question the state of our traditional concept and how they go about it. Because I know that if you are from a royal home and it is anticipated that you become you would ascend to the throne, then there are certain engagement that goes through to make sure that even you cannot even as a child go through certain things, and there's a special attention given to you. And that is how it is the same concept that we have introduced in our legislations that says that once you are a child, there's some kind of value that we placed on you, irrespective of whether you are a royal or you are an underprivileged child or you are a vulnerable child.
Right.
So we've given respect to children. So irrespective of what we want to do, whether it be within our traditions and all that, that principle of placing value on the welfare of children must also be integrated. So this issue presented all manner of things to me, and it brought about a lot of things that that happened when they were passing the Children's Act.
Right.
And when you read the hazard, when it comes to marriage, betrothal, and consent to sex, it's a whole book on it. The discussion that ensued in Parliament then, which of course the current Speaker of Parliament was in the helm of, was thick in the whole discussion, should even tell you that the law, even at that level, they've put a lot of explanation to it as to how we should value children in respect to marriage, betrothal, and engagement of children in performing certain traditional rites. So clearly, sometimes I feel like we don't need, based on what happened in Parliament before the passage of the Children's Act, I'm tempted to say that you don't even need interpretation from the Supreme Court to understand the value that we place on that. And I would urge people to go back, read the Hansard in Parliament to look at how the discussion ensued in respect to one, consent to sex, marriage, and betrothal. Once they're able to do that, then they understand the concept in which we are speaking from, or the thing that we are saying when it comes to the welfare of children. So clearly, it didn't start today. It started a long time ago. And for me, it also raises issue as to how Parliament itself has communicated the legislations that they themselves have passed and how they've been able to monitor the implementation of some of these legislation. So there's a whole lot of issues that we can talk about.
Okay. I'll come to you in a bit. Ewuluni Ajeklu is joining us. He's a broadcaster, also a historian of Ghana Essence. Ewulu, welcome back. Thank you for your time.
Hello. My brother, good morning to you and good morning to everybody.
Yes, sir. Now, I said earlier that I tried to explain Kusum. Because that has been one of the defenses that has been put out there, that what happened over the weekend is Kusum. And I said that Kusum is Ku Ke Amesu, that which identifies a people or a group. And I left it at that. What do you say? What is Kusum?
Okay, as you say, culture is the way of life of people, through which they are identified as people who stay at a particular time, at a particular place, at a particular time. And let me explain. We Ghana, our marriage rights. Am I on track?
Yes, please go ahead.
Then later, I will be very glad if you give me little time to explain puberty initiation rights called Otofo. Or Ashi.
Right, that's the rites of passage. I want you, first of all, I want us to pick it chronologically so we don't miss a point. Okay. One of the defenses that have been put out there is Kusum. I want you to explain to us, what is Kusum?
Oh, Kusum, and we get the name Kusum from Kusu. Ku is group.
Right.
And Su is character of a group.
Okay.
You see, the way of life or character of the group through which you can easily identify them is Kusum. But it is nothing fetish or deity worship. So Christians, they say Christmas is a cultural practice by Christians through which you identify them.
Right.
Idre Ada is also a culture. Kusum is a cultural practice by our brothers Muslims. So Kusum is the character of a group of people or something which they can easily be identified with. Its culture is Kusum.
Right.
So when we say Kusum, Ku is group, and Su is the character. So group character.
Okay. Now, need tell me, is child marriage a characteristic of the Ga people? Because it's also come up in the conversations.
Okay, in our Ga culture, normally we don't marry children under age. If you are a child under age, you are supposed to go through initiation rites. If I say under age, a child below 16 years or in your adolescent age, you go through puberty rites. And this puberty rites, it is initiation to adulthood. And you go through that before you are given to marriage. You see, and the puberty rites, normally the high priest or an old woman, the oldest woman in a particular family, will perform that rite. And you, the child, you are supposed to sit on a particular stone.
Right.
And if you have had an affair with a man, what beside you is to sit on that stone. So because you, the little girl, you know that one day you sit on that stone, you take good care of yourself. Because if you have relationship or sexual intercourse with a man before you sit on that throne, you and your family will be in trouble spiritually. Curses will come on you, calamities will befall the family, and even death may result from it. So children, they take good care of themselves before that initiation rites. So when they do that initiation rites, that is Otofo or Ashi, we girls, we do it. It is very it's seriously done at Pram and some Dango areas and Krobo areas.
Right.
So when you pass through this Otofo or Ashi initiation rites, you'll be confined to a room after you have sat on that this thing,
right.
Traditional stone. After you sat on it, and in case you have had sexual intercourse with a man, you have to confess. You will not be made to sit on the stone, but you go through some purification, and your parents are disgraced because they don't take care of you, good care of you. And apart from that, you become a laughing stock. And sometimes the traditional authority will refuse to do the initiation right for you.
Right.
And the initiation right, they teach you, number one, how to serve your husband. Number two, how to number two, how to keep home economics, how to keep the home neat, how to cook.
Right.
And they teach you some rudiments in sex, and they teach you how to take care of your children. You see, what requires from you as a wife, they take you through that. And so they teach you a lot of things which will make you a responsible wife. A responsible wife. That's the Otofo. When you have finished passing through this initiation rites, then they parade you with your breast on, with some huge beads around your waist and something to cover your your nakedness. Something we call this thing.
Bui, right.
I hope you know bui. They use bui to cover your private part and the back of your bed. You are about 90% exposed, and the reason is now you are a woman. You've passed through the initiation rites, and they are marketing you for a man to come forward to marry you. But somebody will ask, is it necessary? Yes. Number one, it prevents teenage pregnancy. It prevents, because if you've not passed through the initiation rite, you are afraid to have sexual intercourse with a man, because one day you sit on this stone, which may result in your death or calamity to befall your family. So young girls, when you propose to them or you try to lure them with money, because one day they will sit on that traditional stone and it will bring lots of problems to the family, especially disgrace to the family. They take good care of themselves, number one. Number two, it helps the small girls to become responsible wives in future. So men get very responsible, hard-working, caring, and beautiful wives in future. That's another important thing. And secondly, it keeps teenage pregnancy. And as a secondly, another importance of it is it keeps female pregnancy. And another thing too is adults, especially wicked men who may have some evil mind by gifting certain things to small girls to lure them into bed. It prevents that thing also. It helps men. The family too. They become very proud of their child, and the society too progresses. Because if children are taught how to be responsible to your family, to your community, and this, it helps the entire community. And we can see that at the moment, teenage pregnancy is on the ascendance, especially when you go to the coastal areas, because most families have stopped this puberty initiation rights. But there are some families who don't joke with it.
Right.
Like Abewe, Abewe. These Abewe people, they are from you go to Gamachi, you see them also large.
My here and all of that.
They are Anete and Anecho.
So bottom line of what you have said is that it cannot be correct that in the tradition, children are supposed to be married off, because you have explained the rite of passage.
When you, it is not compulsory. You see?
No. I'm saying that I'm asking a specific question, because one of the arguments that have been made in respect of what has happened over the weekend is that there is nothing wrong with marrying off a child. So I'm asking you, because you have explained the rite of passage and I've explained that you're on with Bright Up here, so I'll switch. But I want a simple, short, concise answer. Yeah.
In child marriage is not permitted.
Right.
And marriage is separated through 7 stages.
Okay.
Which, I will elaborate.
We'll come to the stages of marriage. But I'm happy that you're giving us that child marriage is not permitted.
And
right.
The Gambia Council has come out to explain that this marriage between this high priest and the 12-year-old girl, it is not, a sexual relationship or sexual intercourse is not part of it.
Okay, I'll come to you. I'll come to you.
As a cultural heritage expert in Ghana, who has written Culture Never Dies, I can confidently say that child marriage is not part of our custom. It's not permitted in our Ghana culture.
Great.
It's not permitted.
Thank you. Bright, I'll come to you now. And you heard emphatically what Nee said. This is a culture that supports rites of passage, depot, and Janie, and all of that, as they call it. Now, here we are being confronted with this situation, and you are getting explanations from very well-educated people, literally supporting what the culture and tradition that they are supposed to be curating doesn't support. What do you say?
Well, Johnny, it's a bit surprising, but it's tradition. So people who have interest in it would definitely espouse all manner of ideologies around it to be able to justify the existence of that culture. But sometimes we'd also have to look at the details of that culture and what it seeks to do, and by measuring those elements against the existing practice that we have now. Nobody is against, personally, I'm not against the issue of practicing a certain culture that brings some kind of, is a fulfillment of a certain condition and all that. But where it borders on certain things and there are...
But Bright, culture cannot be at variance with development. You agree?
Of course, certainly. Of course, because culture as we know it now is not as it used to be in 400 or 200 years ago. So there's a lot of things that evolves, and that must also be acknowledged in the practice of culture as as we see it. So clearly, those things are there that we need to also look at. But the most important thing is that if you look at the details, Johnny, we've even when they were doing the rights, we had information. Somebody sent the information to us, and then we're investigating. And at a point, I was confused as to what exactly what they were doing was about. Because the environment itself that they conducted it clearly shows that it's a marriage. And when they get to a point where they are shifting the narrative to where it is that it's a marriage to the stool.
Okay.
For that matter, there's not going to be any sexual
relations,
activity among between the girl and the priest. There was an issue. We had issue with it. Then it moved from that they are just preparing the child to assume a certain duty. So when we questioned what that duty was, we were not giving answers. All that they said was that is to serve the stool. And you know that the stool, somebody is in charge of the stool.
Right.
So though you are going to serve the stool, physically you'll be serving a person. As to what that is
services you'll be providing, right? But Bright, the concept of a stool wife is not new to our Ghanaian cultural and traditional setup, because I doubt you would go through the whole of Ghana and find a traditional authority or traditional jurisdiction that has a stool without a stool wife.
Yes.
So what's your bone of contention?
A stool wife is a wife of a king. It's as simple as that. It's not. You cannot put any explanation to that. You see, and sometimes we want to hide under the concept that when there's a sexual engagement, that is where the issue is when it comes to the welfare of children. No, it's not only about sexuality. It's about the welfare and the protection of the child.
Right.
You're engaging the child to perform certain activity as a stool wife, as a wife.
So Bright, the
capacity of the child must also be measured.
I agree with you.
So we should not make the argument that because there will not be any sexual activity, it's not a marriage properly so called.
Okay.
But the point is that even the law says all forms of marriage. So whether you are married to the stool, you are married to the spirit, or it's a physical being that you are engaged to, the law says that if you are below the age of 18 years, no matter the form of the marriage, it cannot exist.
Bright, what do you say to those who also have argued that in a traditional setting, a brother dies and then his wife is given to the brother of the deceased to take care of along with the children? A father dies or a mother dies and they say, we have given you a new father. So from today onwards, this is your new father. And then a situation where there's a chief who already has a wife who say, we have given you a stool wife. So they don't live together, they have no relations whatsoever. It's just a symbolic role that is created. What do you say to all of that? If, for example, this situation, and I'm just playing a devil's advocate here, this situation that we have in Nungwa is where the girl is just going to be a symbolic representation of what do you call it, of the wife, the stool wife, but will not live with Babu Ulomo, will not have any relations with her. What do you see to those who are raising that argument?
You see, if you're talking about a stool wife and the person will not live with the priest, it's raised a whole lot of questions, because the performance of that right, if it is only for symbolic activities, I don't think that the traditional council would invest so much into it in fulfilling that right. So clearly, there are deeper questions that we need to ask to understand that cultural issues, because in other jurisdictions or traditional areas, when you are a stool wife, you are a wife of the king. The command of the king becomes your response. So you cannot let's even assume that you the king you are just a stool wife, and the king says that do A, B, C, D, including sexual activity. You cannot deny it. You cannot just say that you won't partake.
Because you are the stool wife.
Because you are the stool wife.
Right.
You cannot deny it. So all these things, we have to have some kind of details. If this child is in school, and the child is demanded to perform certain rites, and the priest demand that you are a stool wife, for that matter, the school hours, come and perform that rite. You cannot deny it.
Right.
You cannot say that no, you can't perform those rites. So the issue of sexuality issue is just a minute.
It's just one portion of the mix.
Yes, exactly. So there's a lot of things that we have to talk about. So,
I see.
Let's just say that it's just symbolic. I don't think that is symbolic. It's only that we want to ascribe that to it. But there are a lot of things. There are a lot of details that we have to understand.
We'll come back to you, Niaje. Let me come to you now and ask you. So when we say stool wife, what does it mean in our culture?
Hello,
Niaje. Yes. When we say stool wife, what does it mean?
Okay, stool wife in Ghana we call it senheyo.
Okay.
Senheyo. Normally it is not this thing. How can I say ceremonial? Stool wife. Even if you have your wedded wife or legitimate wife, you are given a stool wife, and the child who will come out of the stool wife, the senheyo, is a person who one day be installed as a chief or whatever position, a Jasiche or Mankralo. So there's a particular royal house where the elders groom the female stool wife from. There's a particular royal house where stool wives are taken from. So if a chief marries a stool wife, the child which will come out of the stool wife is the one who will be the one to sit on the throne. That's the stool wife. And sometimes if the chief doesn't have wife too, he's given a stool wife in order not to misconduct himself by chasing women and throwing dust around. Disgracing the stool. So every chief, that chief is mandated, is required to have a stool wife. That's why it's mandatory.
What does it?
It's not supposed to be a minor.
What does a stool wife do?
Hello.
What are the duties of a stool wife?
What does a stool wife?
What are the duties of a stool wife? The duties.
Okay. The stool wife is supposed to perform some duties as a wife in the house, and when the chief too is going somewhere in public, the stool wife accompanies, not the old wife. The stool wife goes with the chief to sit in state, and sometimes he is the leader of the women in the town. Although there's a queen or queen mother, the stool wife is supposed to mentor the young ones, a role model, and the stool wife is supposed to attend to the problems and issues concerning, teenage girls and girls in the town. So they act as mediators and they act as an ambassador for women. She's an ambassador for women within the town.
Right.
And when there's a problem too between somebody, a man and his wife, the wife can come to the stool wife to report to her, and she will act as an arbitrator. So, number one, ceremonial. Number two, perform duties as a legitimate wife or stool wife. Somebody who will take care of the house. And the stool wife stays with the king or the chief at the stool house.
Okay.
It is not the previous wife. The stool wife stays in the stool house. So the stool wife reconciles, marriages. He mentors and mediates and teaches the young ones how to live responsible life.
I see.
So that's the duty of the stool wife.
And in your view, as a historian, as a senior broadcaster and all of that, do you think that a 12-year-old can perform these duties?
Mr. Hughes, can you repeat it for me?
I am saying that you, where you sit as a senior broadcaster, a historian, do you think that a 12-year-old can perform this duty?
Oh, actually, I don't think it's appropriate. But they have explained that sexual distance, but it's not appropriate. According to our Ghana custom, minors are supposed to be two wives. Minors are not supposed to be two wives.
So what happened? So what happened in Nungwa is wrong from what you said.
Hello.
So what happened in Nungwa is wrong from where you sit.
Oh well, Gadangbe Council has come out to explain that. You see,
no, I'm asking you. I'm not asking Nia Ikweotu and the Gadangbe Council.
Oh,
I'm asking you.
I'm trying to be careful not to. Come deep into this thing. You see, because they have exercise explanation. But I'll say, according to our customary rights, minors are not supposed to be two wives. But to be specific about this Nungwa issue, that's what I don't want to. I'm speaking generally.
The Gadangbe Council.
Two wives are not supposed to be minors.
Right.
That's what I've said.
And that's
for me to say it's not right, I'm judging them. I don't want to judge them.
I appreciate your candor, but then Gadangbe Council is not a constitutional body of the Ghana state. It is like an association of Gadangbe people who have come together.
Let me explain something. They didn't issue the statement out of what they know, but they had consultation and they made some inquiries at that particular place where the incident happened. You see, so after their inquiries and investigations, and they come out with that statement because they went deep into it. They went to the time, which I have not done. So that's why I don't want to condemn anybody. But they have gone there. They have interviewed the people. They have investigated. Even they've gone to the parents of the girl involved. So they have come up with a statement. I have not done that. But I am speaking as a Gadangbe language and culture expert who has written Culture Never Dies. That in our Ghana culture, minors being given to a chief or this thing, a high priest or a mankal or a shikitele as a suwa is not permitted in our culture. But in this particular incident, it has some this thing. What I mean is, Gadangbe who have spoken, they've been there. I have not been there.
Okay, I get your point. I get your point. So now, the Gadangbe Council, as I was trying to explain, is not part of the original structure of the Ghana state, as you and I know. It is a group of interested Gadangbe people who want the progress of Gadangbe, who have come together, led by lawyer Nia Ikweotu. There is also a Gadangbe Lawyers Association, also of Gadangbe descent, who have written to say that they express strong disapproval of the recent marriage between Bobu Wulomo of Nungwa, Numo Bokete Lawe through the 33rd and age 63, and also the 12-year-old girl. It took place on Saturday, March 13. And they say that, well, explanations have been given, but they quote the child rights law, children rights law, they quote conventions, and they say it is a no. I'm asking you your personal opinion, because you're also a deep voice in all of this.
Can you summarize your question for me? It's not, and the line is not so good.
Great. So there are two schools of thought. Gadangbe Council that is explaining the issues to us, and which you say have been there, but you have not been there. So you want to be careful. And then the Gadangbe Lawyers Association, who also say outrightly they disapprove of what is happening. Who do you stand with, the Gadangbe Council or the Gadangbe Lawyers Association?
Okay, I don't get it well, but let me explain that. I heard you saying something about Gadangbe Lawyers. Gadangbe Council is not made up of only lawyers. It's true. Lawyer Bryce Akwete is there, lawyer Ikotu is there, but there are some renowned Gadangbe lawyers like Dr. Kofi Bryce, who is the medical superintendent at Dodowa and Shai area. And apart from, there are some top businessmen and even there are some reverend ministers, very, very renowned Gadangbe. I'm a member of the Gadangbe Council and other renowned Gadangbe people. So what they actually do is to protect the cultural heritage and interest of Gadangbe, especially something which will help accelerate progress in the Gadangbe area, mediating in chieftaincy issues and giving scholarships and coming out with statements to protect our cultural heritage
So,
and also to project development in there. Let the chief be accountable to the people and government to be accountable.
So, Ni Ajeklu.
Listen, that's the mandate.
Ni Ajeklu.
So, this thing which has cropped up and it has become this thing. It has gone viral, and there are questions being asked about it. They took it upon themselves to go deep into it to come out.
I know the background of the Gadangbe Council. I've been interviewing Nia Ikwe O2. I've interviewed you. I've interviewed the Gadangbe Lawyers Association. I'm only asking you, as Ewulu Ni Ajeklu, who is also. No, so Ni, can you hear me?
I'm hearing you. Go ahead.
Great. I am asking you this because I've interviewed the Gadangbe Council before. I've interviewed you before. I've interviewed the Gadangbe Lawyers Association persons in private before. I'm asking you, as head of a family and an elder in the Ga State, I'm asking you, what do you think about what happened in Nungwa? Is it right or wrong?
What I think about what happened at Nungwa, what I personally think.
Yes, sir.
That's what I have said, that I don't want to make empirical statements about it, but generally, according to what I know about culture, and I have written book on culture, Gandangbe culture, some salient Gandangbe cultures, and I can confidently say that a minor, 12-year-old, being married, it's not permitted in our culture. You see, because even before marriage ceremony will be performed, the person must be an adult. That's why I had wanted to go through our marriage ceremony. Because we have something we call Shibimo. And Shibimo, this one goes into it. The man who is coming to marry would like to know the correct age of the girl. That's part of Shibimo. And so a minor below 18 years, when the Shibimo comes in, then, and even the Shibimo, apart from the man's family doing the Shibimo rights, asking the girl's parents about the correct age of the girl, the character of the girl and others, they ask other people about what they know about the girl. They ask other. So we have something we call Shibimo in our culture. And part of Shibimo, the age comes in. So in our Ga culture, minor, if you are below 18 years, you are a minor. And minor, even 12 years, minor, you've not passed through the Utofo ritual.
Right.
So they can't marry you. A 12-year-old has not passed through the puberty right.
Okay.
You see, but I don't know whether what is happening there actually. I'm not abreast with the.
I hear you. I will grant you that. I will grant you that. I'll grant you that. Bright, let me bring you into the conversation as we begin to wrap up the conversation. So it is clear now that what happened there was inappropriate. It is not situated in our culture, as we have both come to understand. All three of us have come to understand. Where do we go from here? Because now Lawyer Soso has written a petition that, some action must be taken. Nanoye Bampo has also made her voice known. And then the Ghana Police Service has said that, well, they have taken the lady and the mother into custody. What next?
Well, what we're wishing for, I think last night, Department of Social Welfare went in to rescue the child. They've handed the child to the police, and they are keeping an eye on her and that of her mother. So I think that a start now in terms of what we need to understand, and then probably also investigate where things went wrong, and if there is a need for some kind of education to the council, they do that. And if you also feel that there's been some kind of a criminal offense committed against the laws that protect children, certain actions will be taken. So now that it's coming, I think I would pause for now with a discussion on this particular matter, and then to see how things would unfold. And if we feel that things are not going as expected, we would also step in to address some issues. But let me use this medium to thank Department of Social Welfare for taking that bold step.
Right.
And then also assistance from the police and other institutions that are helping. So we appreciate them for taking this action.
Right. Your mother ministry, the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection, they have been quiet loudly. And then the Ministry of Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs have also been very, very quiet. How does that sound to you?
Johnny, sometimes it's a bit difficult to talk about this because I've always made mention of this, that the reason why we've established that ministry is to deal with some of these issues. But in most cases, you will see them dealing with issues of policy rather than looking at interventions that would also protect the interests of children. And institutions that we have even mandated to deal with that, like social welfare, they more or less have reduced those ministries to a policy-making body, because these things are supposed just to be handled on a silver platter. But so we have complicated institutions. For that matter, they don't even see their mandate clearly as to what they have to do when matters of this nature comes. But in the past, even where we didn't have the ministry, we had clear-cut direction for those institutions to work. So we expect that we'll go back and look at how they can strengthen and give capacity to institutions that are supposed to do policy and then institutions that are supposed to do implementation. Once we have that clear-cut, I think that some of these things will be handled properly. Again, Johnny, we don't have shelters in this country, and the role of shelters in this country is so crucial to deal with some of these emergencies. But, we don't have it. So sometimes when social welfare want to take some of these actions, they have to measure it by whether they have the capacity to even accommodate the family or the child before they do so. And if they realize that they can't, then they are also adamant to take certain steps and all that. So let's strengthen our institution to deal with this. And I must also admit that the voice of the media has really brought a lot of things to us, especially those institutions that are supposed to take certain responsibilities and all that. So let me really appreciate the media for doing this. And then the person who first informed us when they were even in the middle of performing those rites, that we have to send our people there to observe it and then also decide to take action. So we thank all of you for making sure that we brought this particular issue to light.
And Bright, we thank you also for sticking with the issues and sticking with the children. Thank you very much for your time, Bright Appiah. He's Executive Director of Child Rights International. We're happy that you could join us this morning.
Thank you, Johnny, and your team.
Great. Nia Jeklu, you have the closing thoughts on this particular matter. Where do we go from here? Because it appears that there's some more public education that has to be done. One, tradition and culture cannot be at variance with development. That's two. And then number three, people may be hiding under the guise of tradition and culture to do all manner of things. You are a historian, a family head, and an author, a seasoned broadcaster. What do you advise going forward?
Oh, my advice going forward is that, you see, culture stands for discipline, and it stands for development. Cultural practices are supposed to uplift the society. So it's not supposed to be something retrogressive. So my advice in future is we must adhere to the correct cultural practices in order not to bring about some problems, as we have witnessed now, and it has brought all sorts of problems to Nungwa people and Dangbe as a whole. So in future, we must try to adhere to correct cultural practices. And our culture is so unique that when you look at the structure of our cultural practices, it accelerates progress and it brings discipline. Indiscipline in society is all about people not respecting culture. So, as I have said, our cultural practices, frowns on minor being married. Mm-hmm. So, in future, we must stick to it. We must stick to our culture. But now people try to circumvent the correct culture, and they do their own thing and they name it culture. In the name of culture, which sometimes is not part of our cultural practice. So we must adhere to the correct and responsible and disciplined cultural practices,
right,
in order to accelerate progress and for to also bring respect to ourselves and our culture as a whole. Thank you very much.
I thank you very much indeed. But before you go, some people are calling for the head of the Babulomo Shiche, And you explained to us that the Wulomo is higher than the king or the chief.
Oh, yes. The Wulomo is a high priest.
Right.
The other time, my brother asked me the difference between Wulomo and fetish priest.
Right.
Wulomos are not possessed. They fast, they meditate.
Right.
And they pray. Even where they stay, it's called Baatru, or House of Prophecy.
Right.
So Wulomo are higher than this. So we don't call them Ni, we call them Numo.
Right.
Numo, because they are revered. They are revered leaders of the society.
Now, if a revered member of society does what has been done, some people are asking for him to be arrested. Culturally, will it be right to arrest the Bobu Wulomo and put him before court?
Oh, my brother, you are trying to push me to the wall. You know, as I said.
There's no
I've
wall
not been
behind you, I beg you.
I have not investigated, so I can't condemn or praise or give my this thing, stamp on it, that is good or it's not good. I've not been there.
I hear you. So, Ewulu ni Ajeklu, thank you very much. We're grateful.
Thank you very much. God bless you.
Bless you too. Bless you too.
Thank you.
Helen, where is the wall?
You are trying to push.
I didn't do that.
Eniajeklu to the wall, but some much needed education I think has come our way this morning. I've been making notes all throughout, and especially how we set the scene in putting the Constitution at the head. Everything else follows, and nothing can go against what the Constitution says. It appears that maybe there has been some lapse because of the way that this particular ceremony was carried out, but the bottom line is that one cannot and one must not, let's say, hide behind tradition, culture, and custom to do what the Constitution and the laws of the land forbid or prohibit. I think, as Bright Apia mentioned, in the coming days and weeks, we should be getting better understanding and better clarity. He did also mention the response of the lack of response, in fact, from the Gender and Social Protection Ministry.
I asked him how he feels about their loud silence.
Yes, and he says that the focus is usually on policy, but not really on intervening. And when we see some of these things going on, cast my mind back to the Kopi boys who were sodomized. It took the ministry about 3 weeks at that time. I was monitoring before they intervened, and I hope that in this particular instance they don't wait just as long, because the international media has picked this up, and the gaps in information have meant that people are filling it in with things that might be true or untrue. At least also what Eniajeklu says is that as a young girl of 12 years old, even he doesn't believe that she can't perform the duties of a stool wife. Much too young. We need to relegate that to those who are older, who can better understand the culture and the tradition, and let the kids be kids.
Well, the Gadangbe Lawyers Association has condemned the marriage between, the recent marriage between Bobu Wulomo of Numo Bokete Lawechuru, the 33rd, age 63, and a 12-year-old girl, which took place on Saturday, March 30, 2024, despite assertions that the marriage was conducted according to customary rights and that no marital duties will be undertaken by the minor until she attains 18. This does not diminish the violation of a fundamental human right as enshrined in Chapter 5 of the Constitution of Ghana 1992. Also, customary practices, though recognized by virtue of Article 11 of the Constitution, hold validity only if they do not conflict with the Constitution statute and the overarching national goals and aspirations. It's important to note that the Children's Act provides that the minimum age of marriage of whatever kind shall be 18 years, and since she is below the age of consent, she is unable to legally consent to the marriage. Ghana signed the Convention of the Rights of the Child on the 29th of January 1990, and 1 week later, 5th February 1990, Ghana became the first country in the world to ratify the treaty, committed to adopt it to national law. International law. Some traditional practices such as this does not uphold the protection of children's rights. The Children's Act also clearly states that the best interest of the child shall be paramount in any matter concerning a child. It is evident that in this case, the best interest of the 12-year-old has not been made a priority. The Gadangbe Lawyers Association calls for an immediate end to this practice and urges the community to prioritize the well-being and rights of children. We call on the Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection, Honorable Lariba Zuera Abudu, and child rights organizations to intervene, and to all media houses, and they put an inquiry number there. I'm not sure we can call them because their statement is succinct enough. But let's hear from our listeners briefly before we get into Mompreneur. And please call us 055-924-2717 and 055-691-015. Or there's a song that says, Kwemononisa Niofe. Pay attention to what is important and do it. Pay attention.